Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. Your host, Eddie Arnell. My guys, my fellas, G Witt, Mr. J. Lou. What's going on,
Tighten
gentlemen?
up, baby.
Tighten up, gents.
Tighten up and welcome to. I didn't think I was going to be saying this tonight. Welcome to the season-ending show for the 2022 Tennessee Titans season. Man, guys, who would have thought that the finish for this football team would have been 7 straight losses? So coming into this game, something had to change, right? I felt pretty good. We all felt pretty good about the team's possibility of going to Jacksonville and pulling off a victory. Everybody was rested. The injury report before the game was the shortest it's been all season long. And, had a lot of things going into this game. Vrabel's first losing season. A lot of questions about who's going to be on this team next year, the coaching staff. All kind of stuff, right? All kind of stuff. Results: Jags 20, Titans 16. Now, after the emotions have settled down, we're going to break the game down tonight. And I know y'all all out there saying, man, this is going to sound like the same shows for the last 7 weeks, right? For the last 7 weeks. But guys, if I would have told y'all before this game started yesterday that the Titans would outgain the Jaguars 312 to 222, you'd have been like, man, that's probably a victory, more than likely, right? So
Yeah.
after the emotions, man, come with me, G Witt. What you got, man? After the emotions have settled down, give me a couple of your after the emotions reactions to this game.
Okay. First, let me say this. This is one time I hate being right. But I did say a few weeks ago that if Todd Downing was calling this offense, we wouldn't win another game. And unfortunately,
it came true.
That proved to be true. And I hate being right sometimes. But, in all honesty, from the game last night, I would say this. I was pleasantly surprised with the offense. I will say until it became a field position game.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went back to the same old.
Right.
I agree with you. If you thought we had over 300 yards and we held Jacksonville to, let's put it like this. They only had 230 some yards, I think it was, or something like
22,
that.
222.
22.
Mm-hmm.
And 17 of that was rushing.
Yeah.
They couldn't run the ball. Now, granted, they missed some plays. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But still, you have to. Some of those plays, they just flat out missed. Some of the plays, it was just good defense.
Mm-hmm.
So defense played good. I thought, as usual, has been the case for the majority of the year, the defense played well enough for us to win. Again, this comes down to the offense not being able to take advantage of opportunities, and that's the biggest issue. Overall, I'm not upset about Josh Dobbs. I really am not. The fact that Derrick Henry ran for over 100 yards with this trash offensive line is still, and getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage several times and still ended up over 100 yards. I'm sorry, that's just an outstanding running back right there.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I would say this: the good Lord showed us mercy. The season's over. We don't have to endure this. I'm wearing red because the team is bleeding right now, and tomorrow they're going to scab over, hopefully with Black Monday, and we're going to start seeing some changes.
Right. So J. Lou, but before you go, J. Lou, I will say this to G Witt's point about Derrick Henry, man. 1,936 scrimmage yards.
Yeah.
So if you go back on our episodes, go back to not the very first show, but the one for this season, where we did a schedule review.
Yeah.
One of those shows, and we said if Derrick Henry can have 1,500 yards rushing, over 350 yards receiving, this would probably be a good season for the Titans. Well, we were right on that. 1,538 yards rushing and 398 yards receiving, but we didn't know that the offense was going to be this bad. And so, J. Lou, after your emotions have settled, give me your reactions to yesterday.
I'm kind of like G Witt. a blessing in disguise, maybe. As a fan, man, you want to see him win. I was looking forward. I ain't gonna lie. Near the fourth quarter,
I thought we were going to.
Yeah, starting the fourth quarter, I text my brother and said, "Oh, we might have weekend plans to be in the stadium." Because I mean, they came out and they played. They gave a valiant effort. I think that's the best you can say about the team. You didn't see them lay down. They had all opportunities to do that when you lose 7 games in a row. Let's just think about it. G. Witt said they wasn't gonna win as long as Todd was calling games. We ain't won a game since Todd got arrested for his DUI. We won a game, he got his DUI, and it went down. And let's just be quite honest. You'll never see it because I only think I saw a couple games in that skid where they looked like they didn't show up. But overall, I thought they showed up. But you never know what type of effect that situation had in the locker room, especially on the offensive side of the ball, especially with the side of the ball that everybody's critiquing. You just never know how that kind of weighed in the locker room and what they did to keep that together. But say what you will about Derrick Henry. Henry's hopefully going to figure out a way to fix his fumbling issues. He had another one last night, even with the sleeves off. And again, I think part of it is Derrick Henry has got to realize that, his G. Witt said at the beginning of the year, he might have lost a step and replaced that with power because he did run a linebacker over last night. But I think part of his fumbles this year, especially last night, he's not used to getting caught from behind.
Right.
And you look at it as everybody coming up and they learn to just punch the ball out because he's kind of holding it lax a little bit because he's used to taking them to the house. But I think, you saw some pieces. If we can figure out a way, you like what you see from Chig. He is a mismatch waiting to happen. The route he ran on that linebacker and that pretty throw, that was there all night. And then you like what you see out of Treylon Burks. If Burks can get a full offseason in NFL shape and get healthy, you've got some weapons. You got a couple skilled players between those two that are young enough that I think you can run it back again with Derrick Henry and really do some dangerous things. Defense side of the ball, I was glad to see, we've always talked about the halftime adjustments, pun intended, that the offense fails to make. But I thought the defense adjusted after halftime last night because we text back and forth during the game. And the one thing, the first half, Sunshine had all the time back there to throw. We wouldn't put no pressure on him. And then you saw him dial it up as soon as we came out of halftime. And if you would have told me that the Jaguars would have -1 total yards in the fourth quarter, you're not supposed to lose that game. And I think that's the only disappointing thing about how it ended last night is that I thought our defense deserved a chance to try to put the game away. And they simply didn't get it because of a fumble pick return. But glad it's over. Let's hope we can get healthy. And hey, it's the first losing season in 5 or 6 years for Mike. First one for Mike Vrabel.
First one since 2015.
2015. So Titans fans have a right to be ticked off. We should, and that's a good sign of your team going the right direction because we're ticked off because we ain't got a winning season because we've been spoiled. So we don't know how to get this bad taste. We already had the bad taste in our mouth from being a number 1 seed and getting knocked out and came in with high hopes and then how this season went. So looking forward to the offseason, I'm very curious to see what changes we see coming starting maybe hopefully tomorrow.
So here's my reaction, man. So how about Mr. Downing didn't call a play action pass on first down to the fourth quarter? How do you do that the whole game? And I think Will said it was 24-20.
24-4. I think it was 24-4.
Yeah. So look, even my wife was sitting there like, well, heck, I'm gonna run pass.
Todd coached like somebody who knew they wasn't having a job.
Right. Fourth quarter, when the opportune, not the greatest time to run a play action when you're in your end zone backed up. Your offensive line already got problems with blocking people, and they were starting to get real close to getting shot stops in the end zone. And he runs a play action in the fourth quarter when you that's crazy. And then I'm gonna go back to something that Deion said. He said we didn't know the offense was gonna be this bad because Downing was still OC. True, but if you'd have told me Derrick Henry to had as many yards he has that he ended up with, I would have thought we would have won a few more games.
I would say this: we knew the offense wasn't going to be great,
right?
but we all said if we could score 21 to 24 points a game,
You saw
we
it.
would be okay.
You saw it.
We all said that.
Right.
You know,
right.
we all, bottom line was, when Arthur Smith left, we knew the offense was going to take a dip.
Yep.
Mhm.
You know, and they did last year.
Right.
We figured we were hoping that it was going to be status quo, really, that it was going to stay middle of the pack, and it didn't happen. They
Right.
dropped even further. And, you know, I know Vrabel's talking about execution and everything, but it's hard to execute when the defense already knows what you're going to do. I'm sorry.
Right, man, you saw it. You saw it every time on first down. They had a five-man front. A five-man front.
In the box.
Right.
5 men front with
Linebacker
three people behind them, and the safety creeping up.
Yeah,
So
and press coverage on the outside because you got
on the outside.
Because who you got out there? You got NWI out there, or you got Chris Conley. Neither one of them gonna get open.
Neither one of them gonna get open.
Yeah,
that's the thing that really just irritates you more than anything else. Is just the plainness of this offense. You know, that's just ridiculous. Really, when you stop and think about it, for an NFL offense, it's just pitiful.
Yeah, and then my other one was, and I think Deion might have said it too. You saw the defense the defense being on the field so much finally caught up to them last night. They were worn out. They were tired, man. You know, you saw them with the hands on the hips. It was just when your offense keeps going 3 and out, and I mean, not even 3 and out, not even scoring points and putting you in bad situations to come out there, and especially in those quick change situations when you have a turnover. I mean, you gotta give credit to the defense, man, how they played and they fought yesterday. And like you said, Jay Lou, to come out that second half and start bringing some more pressure on Sunshine. I mean, getting him out of the pocket, containing him. He couldn't even run the ball like he did the first time we played him.
Yeah.
So good job, you know, by Bowen having his guys ready. I was upset with him in the first half, and we was texting. I was like, why is he not blitzing? I mean, he's giving him all day to throw the football. And like you said, G, they left some points out there on the field, and that happens in football games, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to take advantage of those when those happen on your behalf.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
right.
And I will say this. And one thing, you know, I'll give one improvement I noticed last night that Sunshine was doing. He was giving his receivers a lot more time, because when he couldn't run left to right. Let's just be honest about that. We stifled that. Mm-hmm. But what he was doing was he just kept backing up.
Right.
Yeah.
He just kept backing up, which is a smart move, you know, and it gave his receivers time to get open. We just couldn't get to him a lot. Pop-Tart was the only one that got the sack, and that was a great move on his part. You saw Big Jeff get in there to affect that what would have been a touchdown pass.
Yes.
That ended up going off of McCreary's helmet. So you saw them get some pressure on him and make a move, and especially you start seeing them, they started pushing him towards his left instead of letting him go right, which really started affecting his throwing as well.
Josh Allen package right there.
Exactly. Exactly. So like I said, I have no complaints about the defense. Yeah, they didn't come out strong in the first half. I don't think they gave them too much time, but they got stops when they needed it. And I just, right now, like I said, you know, the offense was really, if you want to blame anybody for the game, blame the offense. Just as simple as that.
Well, and I'm going to go a little step further as we go along, because they didn't play complimentary football in any phase. Even special teams was bad. So let's go. Let's break down the offense real quick and talk about Josh Dobbs and what he did, because I thought he played pretty good, Jay Luke, for the most part. You know, a little indecisive. If he could have stepped into the throw, I don't know if his arm was strong enough to hit Burks, because Burks was by the DB on that play. If he could have stepped into it, maybe. I just don't know what kind of arm strength he's got, because I've never seen him throw a deep shot like that. But go ahead, Jay Luke.
You know, I thought, you know, for somebody that's been on the roster 18 days, I thought Astro Dobbs, he did well enough to try to keep us in the game. That fumble, and they kept saying, the announcers, Troy Aikman, kept saying it, that, you know, our punter is just as good as anybody. I mean, he set a record last night, and you just hoping if that fumble that they called, which was called, you got to give the refs their due for letting it go. That's the quickest review that I've ever seen, ever. From a play like that. But I agree with you. I thought he used his legs very well and did a good job with the read option. And then you saw it again for the second week in a row. The quick game, the short passes, the screens, the slants, it was there for him. Now his receivers, they didn't do a good job for him last night. Outside of the tight ends, even Burks had a couple and you just don't know. You just don't know how a growing injury, soft tissue like that. You don't know how much he was trying to overcompensate for that.
He was limping some.
Yeah, yes, what I say. You can see he was limping,
especially in the first half,
and he was toughing it out. So and you like it for that, but I still don't think that we had the tight ends involved enough. But I thought Dobbs did a good enough job to where he should be in competition to be at least a backup on the roster next year, depending on who you decide to go with as a starter. As we get into that, he played well enough. He had control of the line of scrimmage. You saw him make some good calls. Now, the sack that was the fumble, they didn't slide protection because you saw the tight end. I think it was Hooper went straight out, and then if we slid protection, Dennis Daly went to the inside. And I mean, it was bad. But I thought overall, Dobbs did a good job to manage the game and keep us in there. I mean, it's the two drives that you get the field goals instead of touchdowns. That's basically the difference in the game. We could have punched them in the end zone, and we've seen our red zone struggle in this 7-game losing streak. But I thought overall, Dobbs showed why, for everybody out there that was saying it was a knock on Malik, why they win him over. I don't think Malik was ready. Again, this is supposed to be a red shirt year for Malik. If you're red shirt in college, that means they don't want you to really play. You might get a game or two in, but you can't use so many. And I don't think that's what Malik was this year. And you saw the last 2 games against Dallas and against the Jags, even though he's been on practice squads, he's been in the NFL, going through NFL systems for 6 years, and he just had a better command of the team than Malik would have gave us.
Absolutely.
I know you go break down the offense, but let me say this real quick. Dennis Daly had 2 tackles on Derrick Henry last night. Yes. One was for a touchdown. Yes. Go ahead, T. He did. He did.
I know. No, I'm gonna say this really in all honesty. I thought, like I said, I thought Dobbs played good for a guy that's only been here 18 days. Yeah, right. I thought he ran the team well. You could see with him playing why they didn't want to play Malik, because the offense was definitely more cohesive and had a much better flow to it. The thing was, and here's the other good thing I liked about it, because he was pretty decisive. He ran well. He threw the ball well. You saw for the first game, I take that back, second game, we finally put together drives. Granted, they only got 3 points out of him, but he put together drives. I think we only had maybe three and outs in that game. Mm-hmm. And, and that's a huge thing as far as I've been concerned, because one thing that's been happening, that's been wearing the defense out even more, is that we keep having all these 3 and outs, and they keep having to go back on the field. They don't have time to get rest. They don't have time to examine what the offense is doing. And that leads to adjustments, and they just didn't have time for it, because every time you come off the field, 5 minutes later, you got to go right back on. So I that's the one thing I will say. Like, he had, I was disappointed that 10-minute drive only ended up in 3 points.
Right. 17
penalties and sacks or whatever the case may be. But overall, I thought the offense, with Josh Dobbs running, it was a lot better. I thought Henry, again, ran good, considering the offensive line was trash and considering the run plays were so predictable. I thought he made a lot of good plays. It's a shame that the run where he had the fumble and the ball went out of bounds, the cheer got called for holding, which I thought was a pretty weak call. Yeah. But it was holding. Considering that this crew doesn't call holding a lot, I was surprised by that. But I will say that I thought I was disappointed in the fact they didn't run no jet sweeps with Burks. And that could have been because of the groin. I don't know.
That's what I think.
But I was disappointed in that, because whenever they ran that, it was always for positive yards.
Right.
He struggled with some catches, because mainly he was trying to catch the ball with his body, wasn't putting his arms out to catch it with his hand, which allowed the defensive player to get in there and knock it away. I thought Robert Woods played okay. Of course, NWI,
he blocked
he's
good.
Not even a number 2.
He blocked good, though.
He does block good. He blocks adequately. Let me put it like that. But he's definitely a number 3 receiver. He's not a number 2. So it really, but I would say this: Brewer didn't have a good game. I mean, he was getting trucked a few times. I thought overall, our boy NPF, he had his struggles. I mean, it was, and of course, Daly's going to be Daly, so he's always going to be on the wrong side of something. And personally, I thought on that fumble that got picked up, I thought Haskins missed his block. I thought Haskins. Well, I would say this: Haskins misread the blitz coming from the outside.
Well, so here was the problem on that one. So
okay,
if you remember, they had a twist and they brought a linebacker, right?
Yeah.
And so the guy looped around from the right side, which had been Dobbs' right side. And
Right.
so he had to make a decision. And
Right.
I think Daly, what Daly and Brewer picked up, it was Brewer's fault because he should have slid over and picked up that looping guy coming from the other side. And so Haskins went outside and Daly kind of went inside. So that, just bad communication all around. But yeah, Brewer was actually the one. If he would have picked up that man coming through, I mean, he would have gave Dobbs a little time to step up because Burks came open, in the window, and then of course by that time it was over.
And I would say this on that long throw, really that to me that was really Dobbs being greedy because he had Hooper open in the flat. Mm-hmm. He could have easily just gave it to him, and Hooper might have made the first down because there was no one near him.
Right.
So if he reads the field and everything and sees Hooper, then we probably got a first down, and that drive is continuing to go. But I give the defense their credit. They ran it back and they held them to a field goal. That was a win for the defense. Mm-hmm.
Right. Huge. Even if he would have threw it to Hooper and he didn't get the first down, you got to punt, right? You flip the field and you don't give up an interception and give him the short field. And so, good 312 yards of offense, 2 turnovers, 6 for 17 on third down. 72 plays ran by this offense, guys, versus 47 for the Jaguars. So the game, stat-wise, the game was
72 plays.
72 plays versus 47.
We hadn't run 72 plays in a game all season, man.
Yeah, surprise. And so the stat-wise, the game was dominated by the Titans, but the end result just doesn't match up with that.
72 plays and 16 points.
And 16 points.
That's what I'm saying. You can't score.
Right. And you had a lot of drives that was eating up clock, but no production at the end of it, field goals. Where was the guard tackle pulls like we saw the week before against Dallas? You didn't see none of that. And so,
a lot of those.
Jay Lou, we talked about that last week. We would hope to see the same playbook, the same type of scheme from last week, but we didn't see that. And for whatever reason, he's just not a good coach. I'll just leave it at that. So
that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Chig led the way with three receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Let me say this too, man, because I saw this today about people who shouldn't come back, and they had Hooper listed as one. And I don't understand why you would want Hooper to leave. When the guy, to me, when they finally started throwing him the ball, you saw what he could do. He could catch. He's not a great blocker, but he's on a level with Swain because Swain is terrible. So
and what separates him from Swain is, like you just said, his catching ability. I said it back at the summer show, maybe. He should get us about 85-yard catches on the season. And you saw the dink and dimes that he was doing over the past 2 games, especially with Dobbs in there, moving the chain. He's the first wide receiver, and I put him as a wide receiver, that we've had in 2 years that knows how to run past the sticks to get the first down on his 3rd and 5.
He did that better than Robert Woods too, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, I read that article, and I think the thing is they don't think he won't. They think he might not want to come back.
Woods?
Hooper, because he was definitely underused this year.
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe once they get rid of Downey, maybe he reconsiders. But I don't know. We'll see. We got a lot to talk about on the upcoming shows. We're gonna break that down, man. We got a cap show coming up, and so let's just keep going this way. And so I really thought Dobbs played well, like you guys said as well. Henry, of course, he ran the ball hard. I think Dobbs had some opportunities on the RPO to kind of keep the ball a little bit more.
Yes.
And gave it to Henry and so on and so forth. But I say that if the play calling was just a little bit better, that we probably could have seen a lot more. And I think you're right. Both of you guys said it. G. We actually said it first about Derrick Henry lost the step, and he has. He's just like you said, Jay Lou, he's not used to getting caught from behind, but he did put somebody on the stiff arm poster yesterday. So
he sure did. And look at him. He stood over and looked at him as he knocked him down.
He did. So let's go on over to the defense, man. 222 yards of total offense, man. And so and I know y'all heard all the commentators were saying the whole game, oh, Jacksonville's got so much speed. They got so much speed. Yeah, they do. But you can contain the speed if you play the right scheme. And you saw in the second half in particular, first half too, because they held on 3 points, in incredible situations being backed up. And you were able to hold an offense that's been scoring pretty well, pretty easy the last few weeks. To put up 31 the week before against the Texans. Now, the Texans aren't that good, but we could beat them. Anyway, so G Witt, start on his defense back because you got to feel for Jeffrey Simmons, man. He poured his heart and soul into the team. He revealed something yesterday after the game that probably nobody really thought about it. He was getting shot up to play.
Yeah. You knew he was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying they hadn't came out, but they
weren't gonna. They're not going to publicize that, but yeah, he was getting shot up. You knew with that ankle being the way it was, you knew that was happening. Right. But I will say this on the defense, and again, it goes back. It's the same old song we've been singing for the majority like I said, with the exception of 3 games maybe that we've been
2
or 3 games that the defense has played well enough for us to win. And I thought last night they did that. I like the adjustment in the second half where they basically, instead of allowing receivers some free releases, they started playing up closer because that was the thing that was driving me crazy in the first half. The cushion they were giving off the line of scrimmage, and with us not being able to get to Sunshine, they had all day to throw the ball, so people was coming open. You saw Kirk's get. I can't remember the receiver's name from Jackson at number 13.
Yeah, Kirk, that's him.
Yeah, he was having a field day.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely put and I couldn't get upset about it, but I was slightly upset about it. But there was a couple of times you saw Hooker was on him in the slot, and I'm like, man, that's a serious mismatch.
Huge.
But the one thing they did, they was making sure that the tight end wasn't going to just drill him the whole game like he did in the first matchup. So I guess you got to take the good with the bad. McCreary, again, I would say this about him. I thought he had an outstanding year.
Mm-hmm.
I thought towards the end of the season, you start seeing some cracks in this game, in this play. And that's, I'm going to attribute that more to him just being a rookie and being tired. But I thought overall he played great. He had his struggles, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but I thought he played pretty decent in the game. Linebackers is really our serious weakness right now in this defense. I mean, we just have Monty Rice, I thought, did okay, but we have absolutely no speed in the linebacker, which is one of the things we were looking forward to this season, was speed at the LB, and it just all went by the wayside because of injuries and everything. So it was just overall, I thought the defensive line did okay. It was better in the second half when they started blitzing. I agree with you on that. Starting getting some pressure, bringing 5 instead of just trying to rush 4. And you saw those cracks starting to happen when you see somebody like Tark get through, you see Jeffrey Simmons get through, you saw Rashad Weaver get through. You start seeing that pressure on the line started getting to him, and all of a sudden it started opening up a lot more. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with the defense. I thought Bayer was okay. He missed a few tackles, but I thought he played okay. It's just one of them things where, man, we just couldn't get. I was hoping when we got that one turnover, I was hoping McCreary was going to catch that ball, because if he caught it, it was a free run. Nobody was going to catch it. So, and I almost thought Rashad Weaver was going to pick it up and run with it, but he did the smart thing, just fell on it and everything. But overall, man, I just have no complaints about the defense, in all honesty. I mean, I could pick them apart on some things all the time, like I said, the coverage and all that. But overall, man, you had a team that was actually scoring 30 points a game for a while, 28, and you held them basically as a defense of 13.
And a little bit over 200 yards offense.
Yeah.
And -1 for the fourth quarter.
and look at it from this standpoint as well. All the announcers kept saying, and Troy Aikman just kept saying it, man, you just can't run on this team.
That's right.
You just can't. I mean, he kept saying Doug Peterson is not one to abandon it. He said, but you can't run on them. He said he said that you can pass on them, but you cannot run on this team. Right. And I think after last night, they might have ended up with the number 1 rush defense in the league.
Probably so when the stats get totaled up.
Yeah, I think it's between them and San Francisco, ain't it?
Yep. And so, yeah, it was quite a feat. And One thing that you did see, to those second half adjustments, who did they start blitzing more? Mr. Gibby, because Gibby can't cover nobody. But go ahead, Jay Lou, talk about the defense back.
So I think last night was the first game that you saw the impact of not having Harold Landry and Bud Dupree.
Yes.
We know the Titans are built on rushing 4. And this game I felt like was the most important game that we really saw the impact of those two guys being out. Because let's just be honest, they tried to be and stick to the game plan the first half with rushing 4 and using coverage, and it just simply wasn't getting there while we had to switch it up. But I thought this was the first game that you really saw the impact from those two guys being out. You talk about the linebacker. I'm glad that Rice, and again, I'm already looking at 2023 season. You're glad to see Rice come back from his injury and get significant playing time.
Right.
That might be some of the blessings in disguises with 23 players on IR. Is some of the guys that are rookies or second-year players, the amount of experience that they got is actual game. I mean, these are real games that they had to be involved in, not spells. I think about him. I think about, technically this is Weaver's second season, but finishing a rookie season for him. You brought up Roger McQuarrie. He can only get in the lab and get better because, I thought sometimes with him being a rookie, his technique got a little sloppy at the end of the season. But the one thing you like about him, and they always said, you hear every DB say it, you got to forget the play and go to the next play.
He's good at that.
Roger McQuarrie up all season long. That's 2 games against the Jaguars, and he's dropped an interception. The one down here, they let him score the touchdown on in Nashville, and then that was an easy pick 6 there. But I fully expect him to get back and get better. Same thing with Fulton. Again, you saw why Fulton is your number one, even at 85% probably last night.
Right.
He's our cover 1 corner for a reason. So you have to be optimistic about what you saw this defense do this year. Now they will take a step back because everybody will, but you just hope that they step back is from second against the run to third, something like of that nature. And then they can only go up from pass because they was 32nd against the pass. You like the pieces on that side of the ball. Again, the speed at linebacker is going to be the one. If there's any side of the ball that we got to reach, any position we got to retool on that side of the ball, I think it's definitely speed at the linebacker position. But again, my guy Pop Tart, he's gonna be a restricted free agent, so we'll see how that goes. But he's gonna get paid. I think they drop a 2nd round tender on him, which would be great to do. But he definitely showed up, and we got the depth there. But overall, man, they just, as somebody pointed out, I go back to the game where they play. It'd be interesting to average out the amount of plays for an NFL game that would consider one game and see how many this defense really played. Because let's not forget that game, they had 100 plays against the Chiefs, which is like 2 games in 1 in NFL standards. So I think that just wore them out near the end, but they did everything they could to hold it. It's funny when you say it, G. They held him to 13 points. You're supposed to win that game when you hold somebody to 13 points. So overall, and again, I thought I seen it in the chat. Somebody was asking about Bowen maybe being gone. They let Schwartz take over. I think
I was about to bring that up. Go ahead.
I think he's safe. I think you might see some changes as far as position changes. But I think before you see anything on defense, I think it's all offense. Then they might look at that side of the ball. But I think Bowen is safe, and I think him and Schwartz are just continue to stay in the lab and cook up whatever pieces they're able to get in the offseason.
And the defensive line coach, and I can't remember his name. He's safe.
Oh, yeah. He's
safe. Yeah.
He only leaves if he wants to leave.
Yeah, exactly. If he wants to leave. That's right. Because he's one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL, and he gets high praise from a lot of people. And so that was one of the things I want to bring up. Yeah. But again, I agree with you both of you guys on the comments about the defense. You like it. Well, one thing that was funny though, the time that Weaver broke through, and you can see how tired the D line was, and still rushing those same moves, those same twists. Everybody was bunched up in the middle until Weaver broke through. Did y'all see that? Did y'all know that?
Yeah.
And that was the weirdest thing to see. And fortunately, he got his hands up to knock the ball down. But like you said, all season long, the defense has played well. And again, I just bring up that point I said a few weeks ago. How can they plug and play on defense who we can't do on offense. And it goes back to coaching. That's where it starts.
Mhm.
Go back to coaching.
Yeah,
Because there's
absolutely.
no way in the world that anybody that plays football like Dennis Daly lasts as long as he did. I don't care what level you
Entire season.
on. Right. I don't care what level you
Didn't
on.
even miss a game.
He
Barely got his
didn't miss a
jersey
game.
dirty.
Didn't miss a play.
Didn't miss a
Forget
play.
game, he missed a play.
And had 2 tackles last night on the team. So I'll never forget that, man. I got 2 plays where he broke through the line, the first wave of defenders, and was about at 7-8 yards deep behind the line. And here comes Daly, boop, and gets in some way. I wish they would have had him mic'd up to hear what he was telling him, because he probably cussing him real good.
He probably was.
I'll look at the special teams real quick, guys, because like I said earlier, we didn't play complementary football in all 3 phases. The coverage was just terrible. We've been playing with house money on coverage, and we've been talking about that, not having that speed, missing Cruikshanks and the Racing McMath. Racing McMath 100% either. He wasn't in shape yet. And so that kind of came back to bite us, Jay Little, on that long kick return, that 54-yard return by Agnew, to put them in good field position after we had went down and scored. But just a little comment on the special teams, Jay Little, because Stonehouse set a record for punt average, and so that's good. So you got a guy for the future there, but got to get some more speed on that special teams.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to stop putting backup linebackers and stuff on there and go with speed. I mean, I think this, and we go back to coaching. This is where after the first return, Agnew would have never saw another return the rest of the night. Right. As good as Stonehouse is, I think he's good enough to just say, hey, punt it deep, but make sure it's out of bounds. But every kick that they looked like he was going out there doing was the exact same. And even on kickoffs, I was screaming second half. I said, okay, let's just let Stonehouse kick it off. Because we put it to the field goal. Let him kick it off instead of allowing, because I think Agnew caught them by surprise on the 50-yarder. A little deeper in the end zone, and you could tell they were running down laxed up, and he gashed them. But yeah, I think that was the worst night we saw on special teams, especially punt coverage was just atrocious. But you can't say enough about Stonehouse, man. You know, everybody back in the offseason was worried about, what we're going to miss Brett Kern, et cetera. And all this man did was come out there and break an 80-year-old NFL punting record. And he didn't just break it. He shattered it by 2 yards of average. And let's just be honest, he might break that record again himself, because if you get him an off season to really learn the directional part and I think he's got to work on hang time. If you don't have the speed, you got to give me some hang time.
Got to get some hang time.
So I think he'll work on that. The kicking game is going to be interesting off season. I don't know if you see Randy come back. They still have the little rookie that filled in for him again. He's probably on Preacher's contract. So if you can get cheaper there, and he's got a strong leg as well. So that might be the one kudos that we can give J-Rob out the door is his special teams as far as specialists, kicker and punter. They did a phenomenal job because the rookie punter and the kicker both went undrafted and were able to sneak them in. So, but overall, and I've been screaming for it. It's time for the special teams coach to go.
Craig got to come on, Craig.
Craig got his office is permanently down there. It's probably time to switch that up and get him gone too.
Gee, wait, before you go, man, Deion said, how did Daly tackle Henry? Because he was right in the way when he busted through the line. He ran right into him. Yeah, he ran right into him 2 times on 2 of his best runs.
And the one time he definitely would have been gone.
Oh, he was right in the middle.
And the bad thing about it, here's the bad thing about that play, is that Troy Aikman called him out. He's blocking a safety.
Yes.
No, get out the way.
Oh man. Oh my God.
But on the special teams, man, and like you said, I agree. The coverage was what was disappointing.
Yeah.
On that, Randy did well on the field goals. You like that? They were true on all of them. No wavering on that. I thought Stonehouse did good except for that last punt, but he got a good roll out of it. Mm-hmm. So really, you want to see him. Again, they were talking, and they've been trying to work where you could tell he's trying to work on directional and hang time and everything. He's got to learn the time to, okay, if I'm backed up near my end zone, it's all about distance and hang time. It doesn't matter if I kick it in, down and inside the 20 or anything you want to, but it doesn't matter. Just kick as far, as John Madden said, kick it as far as you can.
Right.
You know, the other thing really, I thought the coverage though, again, we don't have that replacement for Crochet.
Right.
You know,
Not
we
yet.
just don't have it. And in all honesty, you know, Racing McGrath is not the one who should be running that gunner. It should be a cornerback or a safety with speed being that gunner, because what you want is somebody who knows really how to tackle.
Well,
Right.
to be honest, we had him and then he had to get back surgery.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
going to say the problem is you don't
can't-
have that
you
much
can't-
depth, right? Because everybody's
You can't
hurt.
get
So.
nobody there. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So, you know, that's the thing about it. And that's really it. The 54-yard return. That they just lost their gap discipline on that one.
Yeah.
I was watching. I'm like, dude, y'all just got all out of spot. And same thing on the other one, the 45-yard punt return. They got. I mean, you know, I'm trying to figure out. The guy goes lateral and outruns everybody. I mean, he just went lateral. That just don't happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, they finally got him on that last one. But, you know, I'm like, dude, y'all letting them run lateral. Nobody's tackling them. That's that lack of speed. Oh, and again, you know, the injuries caught up with us, I think, with special team and everything, because a lot of things like I think we missed Haskins running back kickoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he was really good, and you know, but right now because of who you had to play in the offense, you know, you couldn't wear them out, so you couldn't use them on special teams like you had at the beginning of the season. So I think that's the injuries just played a part into that. The injuries were, you know, if nothing else, you know, besides getting rid of Todd Downing, they have got to look at that strength and conditioning program that they got and make some changes. These DBs, Hooker, McCreary, Fulton, they should all be camping out of Kevin Byers' house.
Yes.
Right. Yes. What are you doing?
Because somebody's got to explain to me how he can be in shape and play every game and not have these little knick-knack injuries. What is he doing?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and everybody else needs to be hanging out with him to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something wrong there. It's the same way with the defensive lineman. You know, you see Big Jeff playing through stuff, but Big Jeff is always going to be there. And I'm going to say this: if there was an award on the injury side of the ball, Danico Autry, man.
Oh,
Danico Autry was the only guy that on that team who got injured and was pissed about it.
Right.
Yes. And could not wait to get back out there. Everybody else was limping off the field. I'm hurt. Danico Autry is over there slamming the bench because he's hurt his knee.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that speaks volumes to me. And I thought, you know, he didn't get a sack or anything last night, but I thought he applied good pressure. And I can imagine him getting back to form during this offseason. I know they got to do something with that contract. J. Lou, you'll allude to that later, but you know, I can't say enough about him, man. I really can't.
Yeah. Told y'all, man. When we signed him 2 years ago.
When we signed him,
I told you he was going to be the MVP of this defense.
Yeah.
Because of what he brought to the table. I mean, I just don't. Thank you, coach, for letting him go.
Yes.
Yeah. We need to extend. I agree, Dion. We need to extend Danico if we can. Get that contract more friendly so we can free up some more money. And I agree with you, Rodney. J-Rob did let a lot of players go, man. A lot of people that's gone now that if we would have paid them, this team would be in a lot of better shape. You know, and so to your point, J. Lou, like you said earlier, we were used to winning every year. And just think about if we would have kept the majority of those teams starting with Conklin G, like we talked about, and Corey Davis and AJ Brown and maybe John some of those guys, where we would be today, possibly. Wow. Right.
Well, think about it. If you kept those guys and with the drafts you had this past on 2021, and 2021 draft, 2022 draft. Think about it. Those players are up and coming right now. You don't play them as much because you got veterans filling the void. But J-Rob, you know, I know what he was doing. He's trying to pull a Belichick and flip the team. because we said that about the offense when especially after he let AJ Brown go. We knew that the offense was going to struggle a little bit because they were so young.
Right.
But the problem you have is that he flipped the wrong players. That's the problem you have with J-Rob. And again, like we said, it started with Conklin. You got an all-pro right tackle. Yeah, he was hurt a few years, but you saw that when he was playing, you saw him and Nate Davis with Roger Saffold, Ben Jones, and Taylor Lewan. Oh, Derrick Henry had all kinds of room to run.
He did.
And I mean, you're talking about able to get people, you're talking about linemen able to get to the second level and make their blocks and clear the way, not be in the way to where Derrick Henry's going to fall on top of you. I mean, that's really, I know we're going to get to the cap show and everything like that, but that's really where it all started. And that's the one thing, if you go back and look at this team, that's what J-Rob did the team a disservice. I understand.
He had to try to have philosophy. I compare when I say this, y'all gonna understand my comparison. I think the Cleveland Browns are like the Titans on offense, meaning that they got a dominant running back that they want to try to feature. But what's the difference between the Browns, not including Deshaun Watson, but even with Baker, what's the difference between them and the Titans? You've got to respect Amari Cooper. You've got to respect Njoku. You've got to respect Dots Peoples or whatever you say his name. They got weapons on the outside that allows Chubb to be dangerous because you got to respect that. Right. The problem with J-Rob is we went too old school philosophy and was like, okay, I'm just going to put everything on Derrick Henry anyway. I don't need no receivers. I need people. I need 10 people on the field that can block, not catch. And that's what hurt this offense. You go back to the offense really is no difference outside of play action. It's the same scheme almost with Arthur Smith a little bit. And by that, I mean focusing on Derrick Henry being your focus. But when we had Arthur Smith here, you had a Corey Davis, you had an AJ, you had Jonnu, you had weapons that you saw it last night. If I'm making you run and you've got to respect the outside, Derrick Henry I'll take my chances with them bringing 6 in the box as opposed to 9. Right. And that's the one thing that I'm hoping the new GM and Vrabel and his coordinator for is that they kind of compromise on, because we've got to get this team in the new age. Again, you can still use Derrick Henry to be a focal point of your offense, but if you got those extra weapons, that will make it even better. And he ran for almost 1,900 scrimmage yards with this trash. Just imagine if he had somebody on the side to take that off of him.
Well, see, that's the thing.
We might have seen a 2K.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it. When you stop and look at it, it's Arthur Smith ran the ball well, and with wide open offenses, you have to run the ball well. It doesn't really work unless you run the ball well. Yes. But like you said, though, we had the weapons on the outside to where we could make throws where people had to respect it. Yep. Even if you thought you could cover them, you had to respect. You couldn't just let AJ Brown and Corey Davis run free. No, because as much as we talk about Corey, as much as people dogged out Corey Davis and Derek Mason was one of them who did. Right. The bottom line with Corey Davis was he was a route runner.
Yes.
And he was big enough to get open.
Yep.
Right.
His problem, in all honesty, was he just didn't get open consistently.
And he couldn't stay healthy.
He couldn't stay healthy. And he's still dealing with that even with the Jets. Right. But the bottom line was you had Jonnu Smith who was coming on. Mm-hmm. And you had the pieces there. And one thing, that's what Arthur Smith took advantage of. That's why you saw Ryan Tannehill run play action 70% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as a pro at it.
And you had plenty of time. That's the thing that drives you crazy about Todd Downing. You don't put people out there to even help Derrick Henry run the ball. No. Because you're too busy running this single receiver, pack them all in. It doesn't work. It's the dumbest offensive scheme, and everybody. And the bad thing about it is every defense knows you're going to run it, and they're waiting on you.
Simple. It's so simple.
It's just that simple. Rex Ryan said it best. You're making it easy for every defensive coordinator in the league.
That's right.
You just made it easy for him. Right. And if there was a condemnation on Todd Downing that we hadn't said, that was it from an NFL defensive coordinator, head coach telling them that's the dumbest offensive coordinator I've ever seen.
Right, because he runs an aggressive style defense.
Exactly.
so
exactly.
But what I would say about Arthur Smith compared to what we had and what we didn't have, so we had creativity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Arthur
Yes.
Smith ran some great stuff. I mean, I always think back to that touchdown pass. And I can't remember who they were playing, but the Jonnu Smith where he ran a bootleg, not naked, play action pass, bootleg. He leaked Jonnu from the play side to the backside and was wide open and scored. And so, things like that, the creativity. And G Witt, as you know, we did last week, after the scripted plays, he knew what to call.
Yeah.
He knew what to call based on the situation. This guy that they had the last 2 years.
How Downing don't know he's got a second side of the play call.
He just called plays. Like
just called plays.
third and two.
Arthur Smith always had a feel for the game.
Right.
Yeah.
You give him that. Once I always say this about Arthur Smith. When he first became the OC, what did I say? We got to watch and see if he has a feel for the game as an offensive coordinator.
Mhm.
And you saw as the year progressed that first season how he called plays. Now, when he went up against good defensive coordinators, he struggled.
He had a hard time. That's right.
He had a hard time.
Adjusted.
But you saw them come back and he come back and adjusted to it.
Yep.
And and was actually playing, calling some good plays. And the thing about Arthur Smith, he wasn't afraid to run a play back.
No.
He ran in the first half. He would come back and run in the second half. Todd Downing doesn't do that. He goes back to I'm telling you, he comes from the 1990 version of football: run, pass.
That was it. Run, pass.
Punt.
Run, pass.
I told y'all it was the Jeff Fisher
pass, punt.
School of football.
Run, pass, punt. So Rodney says, do we think Tannehill will be back next season? I think so. Unless the rumor is out there, and I just don't know how I feel about that right now, so I don't want to comment about Aaron Rodgers.
So cap-wise, it's better. It's if they're not going to cut Tannehill. Let me put it that way.
No, that's too big. That's too big of a number.
Yeah.
Well, the number's not that big because it's only going to be 18.8, which is a lot less. But you don't get an investment on your return from him from that standpoint. If you're going to get rid of Tannehill, you find somebody like the Dolphins did with him when they gave him to us. You find a trade partner to try to get some assets. But I'm like you. I think we see Tannehill come back unless, like you said, some wild cards out there like that, and then you find you a trade partner. But I think you run it back with him at least one more year, and then you really got a better shot at getting out of it for the 2024 season.
Gee, Whit, you got a question in the chat. Dion says he's been meaning to ask you, why do you call Jeff Fisher the pretty?
Oh, very, very simple. Go back and look at some old Titans games, and what you see on Jeff Fisher on the sideline. Coiffed hair, dark shades, wrap around, and he's not doing anything but standing there with his arms like this.
That's it.
all Jeff Fisher cared about was looking pretty on the sideline, because all the women in town, I ain't gonna say all the women, a lot of the women in town loved Jeff Fisher because they thought he was so handsome and so pretty, and Jeff Fisher ate that up. The worst thing that happened to Jeff Fisher, in all honesty, was after we went that year we lost to Baltimore as the number 1 seed with Kerry Collins and everything. They gave him a commercial. And once they gave him a commercial, I'm too pretty to do any kind of coach. And you saw when he went to the Rams and they moved out to LA, what was the first thing he said? You gotta have your sunglasses if you're in sunny California.
Yeah.
Okay, coach, man. He's the pretty.
Look. So here's how bad this season was. We don't hit talking about Jeff Fisher. Oh man, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie out there, G with J. Lou.
Sure.
Halftime Adjustments, man. Hey, well, that's it, fellas, for 2022. We look forward to 2023. But hey, guess what, guys? We are going to do another show or two. We got some information we're gonna break down because we know, as you all know, that J. Lou, man, he's on that cap. He has a lot of insights. We got some information coming up. We're going to talk about who should stay, who should go, and where the Titans are going to get the money from to rebuild this offense. And to be honest with you, you're going to have to do something about the secondary too. You got to get some more depth, right? G, what I was going to say something earlier when you mentioned about Hooker playing in the slot on Kurt. Yeah, that was ugly because, the speed factor. But guess who was over the top helping him? Kalu. So that's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for disaster because they had Byron match up on Ingram. So
Yep.
you
It
got
was Josh
Kalu as your
Cole
over
was
the
your
top
deep-
safety.
That's where you were missing Molden.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Speaking
So
of that, that's who has to. He needs to be hanging out with Kevin Byard in off season too.
well, hey, D, I'm just playing, but we're gonna do some more, man. We got a lot of off-season stuff to talk about, man. We got to find out where they're gonna go in the draft. We got to talk about what's coming up. You know,
Which
like
by
I
the
said,
draft wise, they got they'll pick 11th.
11th.
That
So
was
you got
finalized. So they'll
you
pick
got a
11th.
number 11. So here's a question, J. Lou. Why haven't you applied for the GM position yet? You can help him with the cap at least.
Exactly. I need to go down there and see if I can put my resume in for him.
Might as well. Hey, all I say, man, is you get put on is, hey, don't forget about your boys, man.
That's
I'm not forgetting about y'all.
Hey, I don't want to do nothing but just get a press pass so I could be in there and get
That's
some
all.
interviews.
That's all. Get some interviews because I would love to get an interview with Vrabel on here.
I don't
Chop up some football, man.
I don't have to work for the Titans. I just want to be on the press
Yeah,
pass.
just
So-
wanna be on so we can just sit down and talk to Vrabel and have him on here like, Coach, come on, let's talk football, man.
So
Let's-
one of the
let's
things
get real
too,
about it.
real quick, they was talking about coaches cleaning house. So I think, like you said, I think Mitch's is gone. I think definitely Mitch's is gone. Of course, Downing, Carter, offensive line coach, Craig Acumen. So somebody said bring back Munchak for the offensive line. I think we talked about that last week.
As an offensive line coach,
His offensive line coach, I wouldn't
Offensive
be
line coach.
mad at that. Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at that because
that wouldn't bother me at all.
yeah, that wouldn't bother me.
I would say if you could pull, I would say if you could either get him or somehow you're able to pull Russ Grimm out of retirement.
Yeah.
I say yeah, either one of those two, because you're talking about guys who know how to coach offensive line.
And don't be too sold on Tim Kelly being the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I'm just go ahead and putting that in the universe.
Uh-oh.
That the offensive coordinator might come from the outside of the organization.
So y'all heard it here first. Halftime adjustments. Y'all heard it. When it happens, don't be like, man, guess what? They told us
You got
that.
to realize the combination between the two definitely didn't work this year.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, right? Because we don't know the dynamic of the relationship. But on the flip side, we know Swartz and Bourne worked for whatever reason.
Yes.
And we know the offense didn't. For whatever reason it didn't work out. So just like we said coming into this year, guys, that the coaches are going to have to earn their money this year. Vrabel's going to have to earn his money in this offseason.
Yeah.
About getting these guys.
And I think that's going to be the conversation that's had tomorrow, or probably Tuesday with
Black
him.
Monday.
Clean out day tomorrow. So there's no telling what kind of conversation might have been had with him and Amy today. I think, and again, I would probably put it about 98% because nothing's certain, but I'd say about 98% he comes back. I don't think that he's as stubborn as Malarkey is, but we got to remember Amy loved Malarkey too because he was part of the family and she let him go. But I don't think you'll see Vrabel. I think he'll be dealt with similar ultimatums. I think he will take those ultimatums if that makes sense.
And don't forget, and I keep still out there, that Ohio State really, really upset with Mark Day right now.
Yeah, they are.
The coaching got them beat against Georgia, and he lost to Michigan too again.
Yes.
So and Ohio State, you can win every game if you lose to Michigan. If you do it a couple of years in a row, it's just like put it like this. Bill Curry did the same thing with Alabama.
Yeah.
Right. He coached Alabama, but he couldn't beat Auburn. After the second year, he couldn't beat Auburn. He's gone. I would say this though. I just don't see Vrabel. In all honesty, I don't see him pulling a Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
I don't either.
Going to the college rank because really, Jim Harbaugh knew one thing. His style of coaching really it didn't fit the NFL.
Yeah.
Until everybody caught on to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was at first he was surprising everybody. Once everybody caught up to it.
It
didn't involve.
I think, and in all honesty, I think what we see in Vrabel, this year notwithstanding, you got to. I think we remember for the past couple of years, we really, except for that one year when he was trying to run the defense, we really had no problem with Vrabel as a head coach.
Right.
Yeah, no, we've always said that.
And as far as managing the game, and I mean, even last night going for it on fourth down early, like he did, nobody had a problem with those calls or those play calls and everything. He was like, "We're going for it." It's time to win. And I think that really bolstered up the offense and everything as far as drives are concerned. But, yeah, he's about to have his Malarkey Munchak moment.
Mm-hmm.
Who do? Sorry, go ahead.
I said he's just going to face that fact, and he's got. And of course, there is already a rumor out there that Todd Downing is gone, but nothing is certain until it's certain.
That was all over the internet last night.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually on the internet, over the internet before this game.
Oh yeah. It's been out there for a couple weeks now. What I was going to say is, so Will has a question. He says, "Do we think the NFL made a deal with the Titans to lose out in exchange for Downing punishment?"
That was punishment enough.
Punishment enough, man.
Punishment enough.
Hey,
but I will say, if you look at the majority of coordinators, because I think it was Detroit or Arizona, somebody's coordinator had a DUI in the beginning of the season or in the preseason, and nothing came of that one either. So I don't think, and again, that's why I said, you never know how that affects the players as opposed to the coaches, because if that was a player, they got a lot more scrutiny than a coach. But yeah, he's that. I think Amy let him stay on, and I heard it from a couple of former NFL players that be on the radio, especially Ramon Foster and him, that it probably was hard for Vrabel to make the coaching change in the season, because that could be a sign to the players that you're giving up on it. And that could have been a reason why he wanted to keep it kind of status quo, per se, that you don't make that change and tell everybody you're kind of giving up on the season. But you never know what happened behind the scenes from that standpoint.
I agree with you, Dion. I thought, especially we didn't even talk about this, and that he brought this up. It made me remember, especially after that trick play with Treylon. Now, Treylon shouldn't have thrown the ball. Of course, he was getting tackled. But why did you even call that up? Why did you even call that play? Right? I mean, it's like the circus out there.
Football follies, baby.
They should have walked him to the locker room there and just told him to leave the stadium.
He called that game like somebody who knew it was their last game, potentially calling.
I mean, he called a direct snap rollout pass for Derrick Henry.
With Derrick Henry. Yes.
And I'm looking like, dude, did you really call that play?
Then look, who drew up the plays on the 4th down conversions? He don't do that. He don't run a rub route.
Back to back rub routes.
Back to back on 4th down plays.
Who called that play?
I don't know, but it wasn't Downing that called that play.
Oh my gosh.
But again, it's just, again, like you said, it's the version football follies with him. You're talking about a guy who really just has no clue. And truth be known, I think he pretty much knows he has no clue. He's just like, I'm in over my head. I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go out with this. Hopefully they work, and they don't. Then I'm done anyway, so it don't matter.
It's been like that for 7 straight weeks.
Well, so you got to remember, for 7 straight before last night, he pretty much ran a straightforward offense that he's been running all season.
Yeah. Well, before last night and before last week, the last 2 weeks,
Last 2 weeks, Josh Dobbs. I mean, how many rollouts did we see for Josh Dobbs last night?
Right. Exactly.
How many?
I think it was just one that I remember. No, one.
Yeah, I could say.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm talking about moving the pocket. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're right.
Zero.
Yeah.
There was no planned rollouts for him.
Yeah. They moved the pocket one time.
Rollouts against Dallas. So why wouldn't you do it again?
Because it worked. Because it was working.
Because it didn't work. It did work. It worked.
It did work.
It worked.
It worked.
That's right. That's why we can't do it again. It don't make sense.
I'm like, dude, really? I mean, I understand you want him to get the grasp of offense and everything, but still, he's only been there 17 days.
This guy's intelligent.
Yeah.
He didn't take much. He said, you heard what they were saying on TV? Yeah. Practicing without the wristband.
Practicing without the wristband. Envisioning the plays in his mind, and then when he gets the call in, look at the wristband, he knows what he's supposed to be looking for.
Genius.
It's just.
I really see him as competing for the backup next year. Really.
I do too, and I think he's earned at least that.
He's definitely earned that.
I think they'll bring him back. But let's be real about it. I think he's a viable backup.
Yeah,
that's the best you can get. Yeah. He's not a starter, as evident by the fact that he can't seem to stay with any team. He stayed with Pittsburgh longer than anybody, and since then he's been rotating out. I like you said, I think last night we saw some good things out of him. He's a good viable backup, but that's about it. He's really
viable backup is important. Let's just be honest. Not having a viable backup is the reason that Tannehill was in and out of the lineup instead of just taking 4 to 5 weeks off when he first got hurt.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
Right.
I agree.
And for whatever reason, Woodside couldn't keep his job this time. So, hey guys, thank y'all again, really, truly, for supporting the show, for joining us tonight for another episode of Halftime Adjustments, for sharing the show. But hey, make sure y'all look out for the next one. We're gonna send that information out. We'll have that show. We'll talk about some cap. We'll talk about who's staying, who's going. A lot to talk about, man. It's off season, and unfortunately, though, it ends tonight as far as regular season goes. And so, but if you want to hear any more of us, we will be starting our playoff edition of the Midweek Heat next week. So you listen for that podcast, Apple, Google, all listening platforms, man. You can join on that and hear that discussion as we go into the playoffs with that show. And so again, thank y'all for joining us, for supporting us for another season, man. G, I was looking back at some of the old shows over the last couple of days. I think it's since 2016, 2017.
Yeah, man.
So just about 5 years, and J. Lou been on his second season. And so, man, things are going well. Appreciate, again, the support and the love of the show, man. All those out there that join us every week. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick before you sign off, for our boy Taylor, I got to give a shout out to the Commanders. Did their job today.
Beat the Cowboys.
Anytime you beat Dallas is good with me, man. I'm all for it.
So we'll do this and we'll start off. Who's the Super Bowl matchup in y'all's opinion this year?
49ers, Bills.
I think the 49ers too. I think they beat the Eagles, excuse me. I think they do. I do. I like the 49ers, man. I really do. I like how they play ball.
I like the 49ers too. But I will say I'm going to go. I think the Eagles might make it. I think AJ might get a ring, man.
It's going to be interesting.
AJ might get a ring.
Yeah. Can Philadelphia stop the run? That's what it's going to be.
Key.
Now,
I would say this: if they run up against, if there's them in Buffalo, they ain't got to really worry about the run other than Josh Allen.
Oh, that's a shootout.
Yeah, that's a shootout right there.
I think the Bengals gonna have something to say, man, when it all come down.
Bengals got a lot to say, and they're ticked off in the fact that they will
get shot to the number 1, number 2 seed. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're ticked off about that one.
Joe Cool, man. He's still up there until somebody knock him off. So
yeah. But I'll tell you an interesting matchup is going to be that first next weekend with Jacksonville and the Chargers.
The Chargers.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good game in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's playing high right now. And you got the Chargers playing good too.
Jacksonville beat them by 28 earlier in the season. They ran out the season, but that's gonna be that's probably one of the more fascinating games next week. In the slate.
Yeah, because remember Jacksonville, they put it like this: if we don't turn the ball over again, if we don't turn the ball over, we come close to winning that game.
I think we win the game. When you swap a touchdown, one of them field goals, we win the game.
We win the game.
Yeah. But hey, again, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Be looking out for that show, man. Be looking out for the information. We'll put the time and the date out there, and we're gonna break it down, man. Come back, get the information, get the inside scoop from J. Lou, man, the czar of the cap.
Yes, sir.
Get your questions, your comments answered. We'll talk about who's staying, who we think's gonna stay, who couldn't go. And I bet you if J. Lou says it, it's probably gonna happen. So, hey, man, join us next time for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G with J. Lou. Halftime Adjustments, man. We out of here. Peace.
Peace.